Welcome back to another episode of Spectator Mode. I'm Neil Strebig. With me, as always, is Donald Double D DeCray.
Hey, hey, hey. All right. So, what do we got for them this week?
We got a pretty good lineup. I'm excited. I think we got some topics that kind of streamlined together, a couple current events as well. But no, we're gonna talk a little bit about Crunchyroll. They got a new setup going. GTA 5 news, which when did GTA 5? Well, we'll talk about it. It came out forever
Ages
ago
ago.
now at this stage.
Yeah.
PlayStation Plus, some big news there. If y'all aren't familiar, there's kind of a Game Pass coming out for that. Some Breath of the Wild 2 news, so I'm definitely geeking out for that. Also geeking out for some Top Gun 2 news, and also we're going to talk about everybody's favorite anti-hero slash vampire, Morbius.
Favorite. Strong word. Strong word. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into all of that in a few. But you want to kick us off with Crunchyroll or shall I?
You take it, man.
All right, fair enough. So Crunchyroll has decided this past week that they are no longer going to allow viewers to watch new and ongoing series with ads. So previously they had this free option. If you did not have the subscription, you could watch episodes with ads. Now it will be subscription only is the model they're moving towards. And while that kind of sucks, I'll admit, at the same time, I think I get it because ad blockers being as effective as they are, I don't know that the ads were actually being viewed that often, to be honest.
I didn't know ad blockers were a thing, so it changes the game
Jesus.
completely for me. I'm the simpleton.
When I figure out Neil's a
I'll just pay
Luddite.
now. I either just do the free trials until they completely run out and all my emails are like, hey, you've used this one before, or I just can't even buy it. But no, I've had Crunchyroll for a while. So this doesn't really upset me by any means, but I think it's more telling of Crunchyroll trying to compete. And Netflix, Funimation, Hulu, they have a lot of titles, especially Hulu and Funimation kind of
Yeah.
sharing in that regard. So I think Crunchyroll's just trying to find a way to be like, hey, you want to watch anime? There's a huge market for that now. Like, get to us.
Yeah,
Netflix has their
absolutely.
own Netflix specific titles they run. I mean, Castlevania is kind of in that vein as well.
Mm-hmm.
And whatchamacallit, your League of Legends, Arcane,
Arcane. Yep.
blends in there as well. But I think overall, it's a smart move by Crunchyroll. I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, I really can't blame them for this. I think they're gonna get a lot of flack for it. And like I know I saw like memes and stuff online of people talking about how they're gonna go and start pirating things now, which you know what I mean? Like I feel that pain in a real way because as the market gets more fractured between the different services, and we've had that conversation a couple of times before, I think it is forcing people or encouraging people to look for alternatives, by which I do mean pirating these things because people don't want to pay for all these subscription services. But at the same time, Crunchyroll, they've been in the game a long time. They tried doing it with the ads to make it free for viewers. And like, I have an ad blocker on my computer. I don't think it's uncommon, generally speaking. But if you're running an ad blocker, you're not watching the ads. Crunchyroll's not getting the revenue from those ads. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things like, on the one hand, while I like viewing things without the smorgasbords of ads, I'm also not supporting the content that I'm consuming. And it puts those content producers and platforms in a tough position because they've got to make money somehow for all the stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
So I guess Crunchyroll's kind of compromise on this, though, is at least the first 3 episodes of every season will still be free to watch, just so you can get a sense of if you want to continue with it or not. It's their kind of season sampler is what they're calling it or whatever. So I think that's honestly as good as they can go on this while still making this move to protect their business model. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to give them too much trouble for it.
No, I don't know. I'm interested to see if Crunchyroll is able to monopolize any titles, though. I mean, Tower of God, I think, is the biggest one that comes to mind as far as huge hit. But Funimation has their own streaming app. I mean, that's My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Dragon Ball Z, of course. There's another big one in there too that's skipping my mind. And again, Netflix, all of their stuff. So if Crunchyroll can lock up a few more titles, I think they can be in the ball game. But to your point too, it's you want to support the artists and stuff. It's only what $8 for Crunchyroll. It's really not that bad at all. If you're an anime
Yeah,
fan,
it's
it's like
it's
why
not
not?
that bad. I don't know. I mean, I've got mixed feelings on it because on the one hand, mega corporations and stuff, I'm loath to give them more money than I have to, especially when they're making, I think, decisions that hurt the fan base essentially. You know what I mean? That are purely exploitive. I don't know who owns Crunchyroll as an overall company, but at the same time, like I said, they're an OG company. They've been solid to the fans all the way through. Like, this isn't meant to be exploitive in any way, shape, or form. They're not trying to deny fans content or like force you into subscription or anything. They're trying to encourage it, obviously, but still giving you the sampler episodes, the free episodes to just figure out if you want to watch that season or not, so you can make an informed decision if you want to have a subscription for that season's worth of stuff. It's really as considerate as I think they can be, honestly, as polite as they can be, as considerate as they can be. So all the credit to them. Yeah. So GTA is going to be moving to what they are calling GTA Plus, which is their new player membership delivering exclusive benefits and more, yada, yada, yada. It has launched as of March 29th, and this is obviously coming out for Grand Theft Auto, which the game itself launched in 2013. So we are going on almost 10 years of this game. It's 9 years old already, 8 and change. And now they're adding a subscription model to it on top of everything. Like, this is what I don't get. What's the point here? It's a money grab, right?
No, I think it's finally making GTA 5 players realize that they're playing World of Warcraft. It's now a full-on RPG MMO. I mean, that's what this is. And you shared this news with me. I was like, that's GTA 5 is Final Fantasy 14. Like, the sooner I think the fan base realizes that, the better off they'll be. Because I haven't played GTA 5 since it came out. I didn't do the online. I had it, but everyone else got an Xbox One at that time. I was still on the 360. So I was like, okay, cool. And just never follow suit with it. You know, have some friends that still play it, enjoy it. But with this, I mean, I don't differentiate it from WoW or any other RPG MMO at this stage. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think my issue kind of is Grand Theft Auto as a franchise was great in how they kept sort of updating the IP and just going after it, right? Like the original Grand Theft Auto released in 97. 2 years later, you had Grand Theft Auto 2. Again, 2 years later, you had Grand Theft Auto 3. And then like every 2 to 3 years, they kept releasing like a new installment of the franchise. There was some delay between Grand Theft 4 and 5. That was, I'm trying to remember, 5 years. 5 years between those. But now we're coming up on 10 that we've been with Grand Theft Auto 5. You know what I mean?
I don't think they're working on another one. I think it's pretty much just creating DLC for this one.
I know. And like,
which again, I'm not knocking it. Like if you like the game, I think
that's annoying. That's frustrating.
But again, like you play World of Warcraft. What's the difference? It's just World of Warcraft started in this gauntlet. GTA 5 has just morphed into that. And I do think it's funny because I do think a lot of the folks that play GTA 5 would probably never make that connection. And that's what I get a kick out of, because it's like, that's totally what.
Does it get full expansions and stuff? Because like at least World of Warcraft got like whole expansion releases.
I mean, the subscription adds a whole bunch of stuff. You're getting money in your account, you're getting new cars, new skins, whatever. But I mean, yeah, they add, I guess it's not necessarily expansions with the map. I don't know. I don't play it enough, so don't quote me in that. But I do know they add, you know, if you can go into a new building and say it's a bank heist, you know, there's access to new points on the map, basically. So essentially they are. It's just not as in-depth as an expansion as World of Warcraft per se.
I guess I'd have to look into it more. And like the only thing I'll say in their defense, right, is we're definitely getting to the cusp of new technology in which to build. Not that this, I think, was ever their intention. I think they just found a good thing. We're making money off of it and stuck with it. But like we're talking about like Unreal Engine 5, we talked about in the last Spectator Mode. And we're starting to see like the next generation of graphics cards and computer stuff, PCIe 4th generation, which is going to support faster speeds and everything else. Like at this point, I think if I was a game publisher or developer, I would be holding off a little bit on my existing franchises to release on the new tech to take advantage of that, to make like a really nice upgrade to the franchise. Because even if you don't do many changes to the core gameplay, you can do a lot of changes to the way things look and load and everything else to make it really clean and snappy and just like take advantage of the new tech. So if they hold off at this point, I kind of get it. I just think it's embarrassing that it took us this long with no changes, which is like, it's kind of the Skyrim argument as well. Like Elder Scrolls came out on a good release schedule and we got Skyrim, and you know, now there's Elder Scrolls Online. So I guess there's that, but like, I still want those single player games. I'd love for them to go like local co-op as well, like 2-player mode. And we've just been sitting on Skyrim for fucking ever.
I mean, with another subscription service though, PlayStation 5 released their PlayStation Plus Game Pass essentially. It's going to be 3 tiers. The Essential, which is $9.99 a month, which is basically if you have PlayStation Plus now, boom, that's segues right into it. There's no necessary hidden things. You're not getting anything less, anything more. It's boom, that's what it is. Then it's the extra tier, $14.99 a month. This is where it gets kind of a bit more into the retro library, upgrades of PS4, PS5. You have the whole 400 game library on the PS4 side of things. And then their top tier, $17.99 a month. Then you get the PS3, PS2 library, additional kind of 300 some games. So, for $18 a month, you're getting 700 titles. I mean, it's pretty crazy to me as far as how many games you're actually getting. And I thought for sure they would have charged a lot more for this.
I mean, I think it's a brilliant move, honestly, because when you have great titles that you don't provide legitimate access to, you're encouraging, again, that issue of piracy and the emulator market, right? Like, I think Nintendo suffers a lot from this because they have really well-loved games that you don't have ways to get legitimately on their more modern consoles. So there are tons of emulators that run Nintendo games, Nintendo ROMs and stuff, because there's a demand for that. If they just made that available somehow, they could cash in on that. I think most people would be happy to support the franchises and everything else that they have. So in my opinion, this is a really smart move by PlayStation. And again, support your creators, right? Like, let's support people who are doing the right thing, who are doing things that are helpful to us or that are good for the market. I hate piecemeal games. I hate DLC when it's not like a full feature thing. You know what I mean? When you're giving me like the base game that is coming out in pieces, I hate that. This, on the other hand, give me games that I know and I love from previous generations. You know, PlayStation 2 is when I first started playing. PlayStation 3, I think, was my first like new console purchase, right? Like, I got 2 after it had been out for a while. 3 was new on the market and like really got into that. Like, this is great. This is great for nostalgia, and I'm more than happy to pay. Like, these prices are reasonable, man. Like, again, like, it's freaking $18 a month for the premium tier of everything. That's great.
No, I'm with you. Xbox Game Pass is 14, so a little bit more expensive for the top tier. But I saw there was some heat that people were upset because you can't play day of release titles and stuff, but you're still going to have the PlayStation catalog. I thought that was kind of nitpicking, and I know you can do that with the Game Pass, but it's like getting linked to the game. I still think PlayStation will have more success with this because of the exclusive titles. I don't want to say then Xbox and Game Pass, because Game Pass has had quite a bit of success, but I think if you have a PlayStation, you're definitely not going anywhere now.
Oh yeah,
which is what they wanted.
And like,
so
I think they need to continue with kind of what they've been doing, which is with their exclusive titles, keep them on PlayStation for the first, like a year or so or whatever. They did this with God of War. They did this with Horizon. You know what I mean? And hold on to their franchises so that people who have purchased the console get to enjoy that. And then you can still open it up to the PC market and get those, that second round of sales and everything else, because they're still phenomenal games. And for the people who would want to play these games on release and everything else, again, this seems like a no-brainer. At least having the basic tier, which is what is PlayStation Plus these days, right? PlayStation Plus Essential, they're calling it, slight name change. In the corporate world, I know how important these names are, but end of the day, it's the same service.
Let me ask you this, because I had a conversation with my brother about this.
Oh, no.
I've got he's got kids, my nephews and whatnot, but he was pissy pants because he had a family pass with this. Nintendo's the only one that has subscription with the family pass with their, Nintendo Online, and then the expansion pass with N64, which we start going by price points and stuff. We can get in that argument of, who's the best, but conversation for another day. Do you think they messed up without a family pass?
Yeah, I do. Only because I think what's going to happen is you're going to have the issue you have with most subscription services, in that people are just going to share accounts. You know what I mean? And then you're running into the Netflix issue that we talked about last time of, are you going to then look at IPs to figure out who, like, what is the home console or whatever and stuff, and then you play that game of everything else. And I think you're just making things more difficult and encouraging people to jump through these extra hoops, basically. Like, one, you're already providing a great service. If you just added, like, for a nominal fee, a family pass type deal that you could log in multiple consoles at once, I think people take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Because if I have to pay full price for something that somebody else in my family already owns, that I might balk at. But if we can like both go in on it for a reduced price, yeah, absolutely, we're gonna do that. So
Interesting.
I don't know. I think they're probably banking on people just going for their own individual subscriptions, but I think like realistically, you're just gonna see a lot of account sharing happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. See, I figured with that. So my brother, I was it's tell my nephews to get a job.
Well, I think part of the issue too, though, is like I think what makes this a little different from some of the other things we've been talking about is this is like consoles are fundamentally, I think, a in-person family experience. You know what I mean? Like compared to like your computer and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you play online with people, whatever. But like most of the time, when you sit down at your computer, you're sitting down to play by yourself. When you sit down at a console, the idea is with the TV and the controllers and playing with your little brother and, you know, who gets the good and bad controller. Like a lot of the nostalgia around it and a lot of the way we play those games are based on family. You know, so not having a family plan to like share that and encourage that, I think was probably a missed opportunity on their part.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I'll tell you what's not a missed opportunity. What kind of is though? Breath of the Wild 2 officially is delayed until spring 2023. Nintendo came out with a nice little announcement. Showed a little bit new footage that we didn't see in the initial trailer or the announcement trailer. Shouldn't call it a full-on trailer, but still, I mean, push back a whole year. How you feeling about that? You sad?
I don't know because while they you know, like they come out, they apologize and everything else for the delay. They don't give reasons.
Very
they just
polite. Man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, but like I can't tell why it's being pushed back. And not that I care so much, but I guess I care. You know what I mean? Because it comes back to some of the issues we talked about with like Overwatch and stuff like that. How long's too long? Right? Is one where you're going to be bad for it? I mean, it's a Zelda game. People are going to buy it. Breath of the Wild was phenomenally well received. Like, I'm not thinking it's going to be a big issue, but at the same time, you know, strike while the iron's hot. You're definitely drawing this out longer than it needs to be. So hopefully this lives up to the hype now in fans' minds because you know expectations are going to be higher because they're taking longer to work on this.
Well, I mean, that could be why they're waiting, but at the same time, too, I mean, this is what Nintendo does. I mean, a new Metroid game took forever. We got Metroid Dread, but we still haven't got a new Metroid Prime, which is still in the works. That's been teasing. So I don't know. Even Breath of the Wild, it was a long time coming with that. That was 2-3 years when we first saw footage of an open world Nintendo at E3, which you know is canceled. But I think it's in line with Nintendo does, and I think they're smart. Like even with the little new footage they showed with this one, which talked about being you know on the ground and also in the air, a bit of Skyward Sword-esque with it. And you saw Link going through basically boulders in the sky. So kind of a Link Between Worlds, the old 3DS game, which phenomenal as well. If you ever played that, it was definitely
Unfortunately, I have not.
A callback to Link to the Past and the Super NES, but very, very fun to play. I think there's enough there to be like, okay, cool. You're excited. As for me personally, it got me pumped. But my point is not showing too much. As soon as they do show a gameplay trailer or drop a, you know, even if it's 90-second trailer, all that negativity, everyone being like, oh man, I'm not going to buy because it's taking too long. It's going to be out the window.
I think they got their fans that'll buy it no matter what they do. You know what I mean? Nintendo is one of those companies that could literally shit the bed and package it and sell it because people love Nintendo that much.
But it did. Did they do that Donkey Kong Tropic Freeze? When you get a lot of heat for that. People love that game.
There you go. But like, I mean, I've never played it, so I can't comment on it. But like, yeah, I feel like Nintendo is one of those companies that like can commit murder and their fans will support them regardless of what they do. So I don't know. I guess I didn't really think about it being kind of a typical Nintendo move as things go. 1 year delay isn't that bad in the scheme of things, but I mean, I can be bummed out.
Are you going to get a Switch for Breath of the Wild 2? That's more so what I'm concerned about.
Whenever they want to take care of controller drift, I will be happy to look at buying a Switch.
Update your controllers, you Goomba. Jesus, man.
And the truth comes out.
Yeah. So I'm just like, you know, update like happens to me all the time. You know what I mean? It's like I just update my controllers. Now, granted, my Switch is old, so I do have to get new controllers at some point. So, you know, me being a miser, that's a different story.
Oh, but no, man.
Another sequel I'm very, very, very fucking pumped about.
Are you?
Top Gun Maverick, the sequel to the greatest movie ever fucking made. Top Gun comes out.
Jesus.
May 27th. New trailer dropped. I'm fucking pumped. How are you not pumped? I don't know.
I mean, I am excited. Oh, wait. Well, first of all, so I actually have two things here that I want to talk about. The first one is, one, why your favorite Tom Cruise movie is definitely his gayest. I think there's stuff to unpack there.
Whoa! I'm gonna cancel this show right now, guys. The last episode.
I'm just saying. I mean,
it has a gay scene, perhaps in it, a little homoerotic. Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know who doesn't enjoy going a little shirtless volleyball action. Playing in jeans, having some fun with the boys. You know what I mean, playing a little.
Look. I'm not gonna get into that too much because what I really want to talk about though is
I do that every Saturday.
Tom Cruise is getting up there. Man's like what? Almost
get a pair of jeans and join them.
I obviously need to get down to visit you sometime because you're having way more fun on your weekends than I am.
For how long have I ever not worn jeans? Now you know why I'm always wearing jeans. Impromptu volleyball games, my friend.
Oh my lord, I cannot even. But yeah, you do wear a lot of jeans. But no, Tom Cruise he's getting to be a 60-year-old man, right? And like this for me, I mentioned this in the episode you weren't here with when Evan came in as a co-host. Is like who's the next action star, right? Because Tom Cruise is 60. Harrison Ford, we're gonna see what happens with kind of passing the torch on oh my gosh, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. That movie seems like it's a passing of the torch, so to speak. Bruce Willis officially announced his retirement from movie making because of health issues that the nature of which, from what I've been reading about, seems like probably the worst for someone like him who's a charismatic actor, makes his living speaking and everything else, and that's what the ability he's going to lose in the near future. Like, you're losing a lot of these people. Do you think this is going to be Tom Cruise milking a franchise, or do you think this is going to be setting the franchise up for new blood and new life?
I think that would be to be determined, but from what I understood going into it, they always wanted to make a Top Gun sequel. Everything kind of lined up for this. There was delays and stuff with COVID and whatnot as well. So you had that, but I don't think they're going to be trying to milk this. I think, and also too, to your action point, the action takes place in a plane. And what made Top Gun so cool was you saw fighter jets in action and the camera angles. Like, everyone knocks Top Gun for being an 80s film, but that's the first time you saw that shit. Like, you didn't see an F-22 doing any of that before. It would basically just be, a landscape shot and boom, goes by. We saw them, doing helixes and doing spins like crazy. So you can be 60, you can be 80 years old in the cockpit and probably still act that out. You're okay. I mean, Christ, it's just your eyes showing. And Tom Cruise does not look 60 either, so you can still pull it off. I don't know if I'd like it if they extend it. We see in the trailer, Iceman has passed away, favorite Val Kilmer. How I got my nickname as well. But
what nickname?
So you ever heard anyone call me Iceman? That's fucked up.
I don't think so.
My street cred. Yeah, JT calls me all the time, man. Yeah.
I obviously
I have the Iceman Top Gun shirt because
Jesus Christ.
Jeez, man. Yeah, you've known me for how long? How do you not know the Top Gun love, man? Unbelievable.
I don't know. This is so much is coming out about you right now that I'm gonna have to process this after this episode for sure. might have to reevaluate the relationship. It has
everything you need in a movie. Okay, even the homoerotic volleyball scene. Okay, it's got romance, great soundtrack, great action. You know what I mean? There's drama, friendship, everything you need.
I mean, it is a legitimately good movie. I'm not going to knock that at all. I'm not trying to take away from original Top Gun. The real question for me is basically, is this going to be anywhere near as good, right? Because a lot of times when we revisit IPs long after the fact, it's being milked essentially, right? Like, it's a money-making grab.
Goose's kid in there, so they got that callback. I think Meg Ryan is in it, so we have that callback as well. So you've had some pretty good storyline to pull in. You have Iceman, Maverick's biggest rival, calling him back to Top Gun Academy. So there's a lot going on there. I think that even if you're not a fan of the first movie, it will at least correlate for new fans. And to your point with Zelda and Nintendo, there's a lot of Top Gun fans like me, man. I'll go see 10 of them. I don't fucking care.
Fair enough. So Top Gun's going to be here to stay.
So, again, I'll see a moot Val Kilmer right now because he can't talk with the throat cancer. Him in a fucking cockpit flying around. I don't give a shit. I'm like, hey, that's a great movie right there.
Oh, man, I love how ready you are for this. But I guess
I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
When this drops, we're absolutely going to have to revisit this topic.
Better fucking hit. I will say that. I know the soundtracks aren't a big thing anymore for movies unless it's fucking Encanto and you only have one fucking song that's
Oh
popular.
my
But
god.
like Top Gun soundtrack was fucking amazing. Kenny Loggins at his absolute best.
It was a good soundtrack. Look. You act like I'm at all trying to detract from original Top Gun, and I am not. And I'm terrified.
No, I'm just that.
I'm terrified. I'm going to see you in person. You're just going to like jump me and be like, "The fuck you say about Top Gun?"
It's an amazing movie. And I think it gets like, I think it does get heat because people, Tom Cruise is a bit polarizing. So I think Top Gun, people forget like how impactful a movie it was. I mean, you talk about like American culture. And I'm not going to say it's like a cinematic masterpiece by any means or anything else like that. Like it definitely pushed limits. And again, the camera angles on the planes, but I mean, that's like Americana right there. That's true American cinema and like culture though. As a
I mean, I really do think
I think you can't
stand the test of time too, right? Like when it was released, at the time it was released, it was also nominated for a slew of awards, won a bunch of awards, including, for the record, best soundtrack. To your point, best sound editing awards.
Oh no, she's lost that loving feeling, covering that beautiful Righteous Brothers tune.
So legitimately a very, very good movie by all standards. At the time it was, and I think it still is today, and I think it does hold up for the most part. So, you know, I hope the new one is just as good. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm hoping.
Feel the need for speed.
Oh my God. So here's the thing, though. I'm curious on your thoughts, right? So we've talked about franchises that people will come out and see no matter what, right? Talked about Top Gun, apparently. We talked about Nintendo as a company. We know there's those Marvel fans who are diehard at this point who will come out for any Marvel movie. Star Wars similarly has a very rabid following. And Sony, for its part, is trying to establish its own Spider-Verse, Sony Spider-Verse, this sort of expanded set of Spider movies. So Sony maintains control of the Spider-Man IP. They loan the character to Disney Marvel for those movies. And in the meanwhile, they've been trying to create their slew of movies, notably starting with Venom, then the sequel, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and coming out actually this week. So by the time this airs, will be the newest installment, Morbius. Morbius, played by Jared Leto, is the Dampier. I guess he's a half vampire, living vampire. And the movie, as seen by critics, has not been well received at all. Like,
yeah,
everyone universally seems to hate it. And I got to be honest with you, the Venom movies as well were not the best movies either. So I guess this brings us to the question of the day. 2 parts. Number 1, what are your feelings on Morbius? Are you going to see it? And number 2, what are your feelings on Sony's Spider-Verse that they're trying to develop? How's that going, and where do you think they're going to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to see it. I think Morbius is a good anti-hero. I think with any of these characters, and Venom did do a fairly good job as far as creating an entertaining film, somewhat of a standalone. Did we need a sequel for it? Yes, no, it's debatable. I think you need to do that as an anti-hero. You kind of need to establish like, hey, could we go more with this, or just establish a really good story with it? The knocks I've seen for Morbius kind of are laughable because people are knocking that there's no story. And it's, again, origins films can be really, really tough. And especially with anti-heroes and off character that is half vampire, it's going to be tough. Again, if an origins film is an 8 out of 10, that is a phenomenal origins film. So even if it's a 6 or a 7, I would still say it's pretty good. The part that's been cracking me up, though, is people are knocking the special effects, calling them like spotty, this or that. One, the movie was delayed for a while. So have we gotten that pompous that, No Way Home's made us feel like, oh my God, these 2019 special effects fucking suck, bro. Like,
dude,
come on,
did you
man.
see the Black Widow special effects? Have you seen like when you?
And that's it cracks me up. It's just like, come on, just stop. And also, too, I can't help but think those people are also MCU, Disney, or maybe even Rotten Tomatoes, just cronies, because Sony and special effects, they got it pretty fucking well handled. I've never seen a visually unpleasing Sony film. So I'm going to call a little bit of bullshit on that. And IGN, of course, my favorite video game site ever, because all those folks know exactly what they're talking about.
Super well-informed opinions all the time.
Their review basically bashed it for focusing too much on creating the Spider-Verse, basically, in Sony's universe, not enough about story. And basically, their review sounded like Captain Marvel to me. I was like, that's exactly what Captain Marvel did.
Captain Marvel was like my least favorite.
Morbius, yeah, and it made me laugh because it's just like, just stop. Like, Yes. Does it probably have some faults? Absolutely. Again, Origins film, it is trying to do a lot of things. I'm still going to see it. Do I think the Spider Verse can work? If they bring Andrew Garfield back for one more, I think they have a lot more traction.
I
I
agree.
don't know. I don't know how successful Miles Morales movie will be now because of spoiler alert, guys. Because of how they brought No Way Home back around.
Yeah,
So
that was
that's
a very
what
Miles
I worry
Morales
about because
storyline.
like I do think a Miles Morales would work. Venom with the Carnage movie that fell victim. I'd love to see director's cut for that, and I hate that we see that for almost every movie now because it did seem like there was a lot of harsh cuts with that. It felt fast. It felt like 90 minutes. And again, I don't want to see a Miles Morales fight in Carnage. I don't. That's not Maximum Carnage storyline. That's whack. That's weak sauce. If that's what they go with it, whatever. But I think Holland's Spider Man kind of took away from getting to know Miles and why he's so different than Peter Parker and those likable attributes. So I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot there. We're not Sony, but Disney doing that. Maybe Disney did that on purpose because Disney kind of has that Microsoft vibe of, rather than beat your competition, you just kind of buy them out or shoot them in the foot and undercut them anywhere you can.
Yeah, I think so. Like a couple things come to mind. Number one, I'm not sure how I feel about an origin story. In this case, not involving Blade, right? Like Blade got several movies on his own, which did relatively well. Like it's the first one, especially. You know what I mean? I think like Blade Trinity, not so much, but at that point, whatever. So doing a Morbius film without Blade involved at all, because Marvel still owns, or Marvel now owns Blade as a character. So Sony doesn't get to use him unless they give permission, essentially. And that's not going to happen, as far as I can tell. I don't know how well you do a Morbius origin story without him. First concern for me. Larger concern with the Sony cinematic universe here. Like, I'm just going to read off some of the projects that have been announced that we know they're doing. Madam Web, they're doing a Sinister Six, Night Watch, Silk, which I don't actually know what that one's going to be about, but that's in there as well. We know about the Miles Morales project they're talking about, which I think they've unfortunately shot themselves in the foot with. We've talked about this before. A lot of the storylines and a lot of the character we see in the Marvel Spider-Man seems very Miles Morales inspired, right? Like his attitude and some of the storylines. And now that we have like this multiverse stuff going on, it's very much like Miles Morales Spider-Man rather than Peter Parker per se. So I don't know where that stands for them.
Silk, I looked up Silk just now because I want to make sure I had it right. I knew she was Asian, but I wasn't sure what ethnicity of Asian, but she's a Korean Spider-Man, basically.
Interesting.
So she kind of looks like Katana. She wears a little ninja mask / bandana. You can still see her eyes and hair and whatnot as well, but a bit more of a Miles Morales / Spider-Gwen suit, white with the black leggings kind of thing. So
yeah,
I guess more Spider-Gwen, but inverse.
Interesting and weird again, because again, I don't know how
I mean,
much.
representation does matter 100% with it, but again, is Disney going to come out with a Spider-Gwen movie? Probably. They're probably going to come on some format. So it's again like,
Right.
why have them rival each other? It doesn't
Well, I
make
mean,
sense. And
they're bringing over Michael Keaton, right? Like Michael Keaton is appearing in Morbius. That's been confirmed. That because of the spell that was cast by Doctor Strange in the most recent Spider-Man No Way Home, Michael Keaton ends up in the wrong universe. He's going to end up in this one as Vulture.
spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, was that not like a known thing?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm not knocking the Keaton thing, but the Doctor Strange bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's creating this weird web of connected but not, and then I don't know. I think I would love for a Spider-Verse.
Disney, do you think the Spider-Verse is right to be criticized, or is it more Disney being Disney and forcing Sony's kind of hand in this regard? Because I'm all for Sony basically staying true and fighting Disney on a lot of things, especially because Spider-Man movies on Disney's end are only good because of Sony's special effects.
That's that's a spicy take.
It's true.
I think that's a very interesting question. I got to collect my thoughts on this a little bit. So make it sound like I had this answer a lot quicker than I did. I think okay.
Okay.
So I think the thing is, I don't know if I put the blame as much on Disney Marvel as I do on Sony themselves, because it feels like with Marvel's success, their cinematic universe, a lot of franchises in general are looking to do similar things. And the Sinister Six project being announced specifically is one of the things that they're coming out with, and they're absolutely giving us Craven. They've done Venom. They're doing Morbius now. You know what I mean? We know that Vulture's been brought over, right? Like, we have the pieces of Sinister Six, so we see that they're trying to do this similar, like, here's origin stories on a bunch, bring them together, Sinister Six it, yada, yada, yada. I'm afraid it's less Disney pushing Sony as much as Sony trying to copy Disney's model. I just don't know that they're going to do it that well, because they're the same people that like fudged up Amazing Spider-Man and everything else, right? Like they didn't have to reboot their own franchise the way they did. Like, they did themselves dirty with Andrew Garfield.
But
He does not get nearly the credit he deserves for his time as Amazing Spider-Man,
they were
because
good movies.
because they re-origined him shortly after the Raimi films. Like, what was that?
Yeah. But they were good films. They get way too much heat for no reason. They were solid. I think people are way too harsh on those. But I also think what's hurting Sony is they also have a bit of obscure characters. They don't have well known.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to kind of
it's
like
not
deep
that
cuts
hard
of
to make.
Spider-Man, right?
I mean, the original Thor movie, first Thor, was fucking bad. It was ass. All
The
right?
second one was
Anybody
also
that says
not so
otherwise
good.
no, it wasn't good. But like, Thor is a very popular character
Mm-hmm.
to the point. You're gonna have a huge fan base going after that. Yeah, name me how many Silk and Miles Morales fans you know.
I didn't even know who Silk was until you Googled her just now.
Yeah, that's the hurdle that Sony's dealing with more so than can they make a good movie, can they not? I do think just blasting Sony because you want to be a Disney fanboy or fangirl does not help the case. Because I do think there are good characters in this universe that do deserve it. And also, too, I'm sorry, if we're all on the representation train, yeah, let's fucking get a little hype for that Silk's going to have her own movie, or Madame Web, which is a phenomenal storyline in itself and could really be a villain universe, which I'm 100% for. So it's like, why not? And, we also got Ben Rally in the mix. So let's not forget about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of potential, but the concerns are kind of what you're saying. Like, number one, you're definitely going for lesser known characters by themselves. So I think a lot of these early movies are going to establish the draw of the franchise, right? Like the Marvel movies, okay, you don't know who Thor is, and if the movie ends up being mediocre, you're still going to watch, you're still watching Captain America because you know who Captain America is. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to stop you from watching that movie, even though that was, maybe the movies before it were mediocre. Not the case, I think, with the Sony stuff, because you don't know the characters. What you will know, what will be defining, is that it is a Sony Spider-Man Spider-Verse film, right? So you're going to judge whether you go to the new movies or not based on the lead characters, but based on your past experiences with the Sony Spider-Verse films. So they really do need to make an extra effort to stick that landing and make them solid entries. And Morbius, again, all the reviews are saying it really doesn't do that. So
I think
they're in a bad place
too with these films, and again, it comes back to the origins argument. I think sometimes you have to make a movie and making it a good movie without hopes you will get a sequel, this or that, especially with superhero films, and especially in the sense of obscure characters. I don't know. It's like people want to fucking see an Infinity War or like whatchamacallit, Winter Soldier, like every time they see a superhero film now. And it's like, you're not gonna get that. Like, cool your fucking jets. Yeah, I mean, like Black Panther was not a it was a good origins film, but it wasn't a great movie. Okay. It wasn't. It had the same tropes and errors. You know what I mean? It killed two of the best villains. There was a lot of issues with storytelling in that film, but nobody wanted to say that because they were going to feel like they weren't being, social justice car and an ally. And it's like, no, like, it's just sometimes movies can have faults and still be great. And it was a great origins film. It was 8 out of 10 for sure. Was it the best Marvel movie? No. And should it have been? No. It was going to be tough because it was the first time we saw this character.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, here's a question for you actually a little bit, because you've got me thinking, do we need origin stories for all these individual characters? Like, is that a necessary thing to get us to buy into these characters?
I think for the characters that aren't kind of part of the, I don't want to say big three or anything else because there's a lot more than three, but Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Well, maybe not Wonder Woman. She's got a bit more of a tougher history there, but those three, everybody knows. Everybody knows how they got their powers or has an idea. You don't need to go into it. The Spider-Man argument, I think you can trickle into a bit more with Miles Morales and a Silk, Spider Gwen. I forget the other Spider Woman.
Which one?
All of them. No, I think you could kind of go through with more of a Bruce Wayne's parents die kind of scene to where they get bit. Fast forward, okay, here we are now, kind of thing with some of those. So it's just like, okay, this is how they got bit. Slightly different power, maybe different kind of universe, whatever it may be. But there are characters you don't need to dive into things with, and you can just hit the ball running. Other characters, not so much. A Black Panther, yeah, you can't just jump in. There's a lot of fucking shit with Wakanda. Wakanda's a big player. That's why it's so cool because you have Black excellence in Wakanda. That's what's so fucking awesome about that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Black Panther is a G, and that's why Wakanda is fucking awesome. Again, hit the nail on the head in some parts. Some other parts fell a little flat with stuff, especially with the Killmonger thing. His turn was kind of like, okay. And again, Origins film, introducing all these characters. Not everything's going to be perfect. Trying to think of some other ones with recent Marvel. I mean, Black Widow. Did you have to go through her whole backstory?
No. We could it would have been so much easier, in fact, if they just kind of gave us Florence Pugh's character, Yelena, right? Like she could have come out the way she did essentially in like Hawkeye and stuff like that without having the movie there and still had our buy-in as like, hey, I'm her sister. You'd have to explain a little bit, but like it's one of those like soft, what I consider a soft retcon. It's not like a true retcon in the sense that it's not going against anything we previously heard, but it's definitely going against our previously established expectations, right? We did not expect Black Widow had a sister. So you would have to talk to us about that a little bit. At the same time, it doesn't need its whole giant thing. And I think the point for me when it comes to the Spider-Verse stuff is these characters naturally are going to be more involved than, for example, Black Panther and Wakanda. Like Wakanda needs its own explanation and completely did need to be its own standalone movie to explain like what the heck is Wakanda, what's going on with the technology and everything else. Like there was a lot to process there. It needed that, right? For the Spider-Verse, we're talking what? It's all New York heroes. It's all in and around, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Like it's all in the same neighborhood. Like they're all playing in the same ballpark. So if it's all set in the same universe, we have all those givens already, right? You don't need to reintroduce us to the setting and kind of the context and everything else. It carries over from the previous movies. So you can kind of just jump in, right? Give us the character. You can show us their powers. We don't need explanations of like, oh, what does this do? Like, you know what I mean? Like the walkthrough of like, as he's like figuring out his powers, show us the person using their powers. It's perfectly fine. And then like, yeah, we'll need that moment maybe where they they give a little exposition about their motives or whatever. But that's fine. We can do that in like a 5-minute fucking monologue with the hero and don't need to make a whole movie about this of like why this person is the way they are. You know,
I'm with you. Are you going to see Morbius?
Yes, I will see it. Actually, I think I just thought the perfect comparison is the Joker. Joker finally got his origin movie, but in every other appearance Joker has come out in movie franchises, he's just there, right? And we don't get origin, not that we really know it that well to begin with, but he's there. He explains, this is my motivation in this movie. No issues. You know what I mean? And this is very much villains and stuff. You can just come in with the villains, explain their motivation for the movie and what's going on with them, and dive into it. You don't need to do this like real piecemeal, in-depth backstory stuff.
No,
so
I guess with the legacy or S tier, if you will, and I guess in the sense of legacy, those heroes and villains you don't need. And I think we're seeing that though a bit more. Even with the new Batman movie, they don't. It's a bit of an origins film in some ways, a year one origins kind of take, without giving too much away if you haven't seen the film yet. But they kind of go into it as far as he's been beating people up and being the Batman for some time without, why is he doing the mask,
Right. And again, like I don't think they go into the villains' backstory so much. We understand Batman, and so the villains, we get enough. And Sony's going with the Sinister Six, which is the villain.
And that's actually a point too that we didn't mention with Morbius. How many times have we said villains make the hero?
Yeah.
So depending on who the villain is in Morbius, that could definitely, you know, pull away from the story too if you're not that compelled. And then that makes you think then like, oh, it's just setting up this or that. But I don't know. I take all those reviews with a grain of salt because anything that's not Disney, mostly IGN and Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of those guys, they cater and pander to them. They do.
Well, I can't disagree. Disney is one of those giant evil corporations I'm always railing against, and I'm sure somewhere we can find connections between them and reviewers, financial ties that would help their reviews if we wanted to go
get conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, it's all the way down the hole.
We're going full.
We can go real deep down there, but no, I think that's a conversation for another day, another time, maybe, or just for me.
Mickey Mouse has 7 letters, 7 days in a week.
I got my crime board back here, right? It's already starting. I'm building my map and everything else, but I'll go crazy on my own at some point. But I think that'll do it for Spectator Mode for us this week. Thanks for coming by. Always looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are on the things that we discussed. So please feel free to share comments. And yeah, we'll see you next week on Spectator Mode.